Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Feminine Legacy Podcast. This is your host, Jackie Ma, and today I am excited to talk to you a little bit about spiritual pride. Oh, spiritual pride is, for me, true prosperity. I didn't always know that. Um, like so many of you, I was born with certain gifts or qualities that are true to my nature, have always been here. So I didn't really see the specialness or the uniqueness in me. I just kind of thought they were part and parcel. Sometimes I didn't even know that other people didn't have them. I thought that kind of everybody had the same thing, and this couldn't be farther from the truth. So, I want to begin this talk about really seeing, being willing to embrace and see the emanation and the beauty that each one of us are. And when we're one with it, it's almost really challenging to see it because you're embodying it. But I think we can see so much in the world that we identify so much more with our ego personalities or aspects of us that we were or thought we are. And then there is this glorious being who is there somewhere. And we need to just find our way back to her or to him and resource ourselves and remember who we are. So I'm reminded, one, what it feels like to be really full of spiritual pride. And for some of us, sometimes we have to move through experiences of separation from who we know ourselves to be to then realize, oh my God, where is that thing that I was able to draw on? Where is, for some of us, it might be our psychic gifts, or it might be certain abilities that we have. Um, that maybe we took for granted, or that, as I said, that we thought that was like, not a big deal. Um, as somebody who is consciously walking a spiritual path and working with practitioners and healers and folks who want to get free, I just want to say a spiritual path is a path of liberation. It's not like I'm a spiritual path. I'm on the path. No, it's much less glamorous than that, and more so about breaking free of the shackles and the cultural conditioning to liberate yourself and to remember the emanation of the truth of who you are and come home to the still point and the sovereignty of your true nature as a God embodied being. And there's so much depth and spiritual pride in that, and it's less bells and whistles. um, it's less performative. It's just a state of embracing and accepting. Oh, I can just feel it starting to drip in, and like it slows and stills. um, and it's our true prosperity. It is when we cultivate and come into union and connection with this energy, we are able to cultivate our lives from the truth of who we are, not from the personalities. And then we stop turning away and denying um, the tenderness and the greatness and the overall sense of knowing and being, and turn towards it. And then when we do that and cultivate a relationship with that, we can start to develop a healthy sense of self, which is a true love of the self, a commitment to the self, to be true to the self and experience the brilliance, the equanimity, the presence of the I am in each and every one of us. So, spiritual pride, what is the difference between spiritual pride and ego pride, right? Ego pride can be really puffed up. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing either way because it exists inside of each and every one of us. But transforming and cultivating it to a true pride where it's boundless, it's emptiness, and yet it's so full. It is like the rich appreciation and knowing. It's like you've touched the sacred inside and you honor and revere everything that is here and that is present within you that is true to your nature. And for a long time, I didn't get it. Like, I just took it, I really took it for granted. And I know so many people that do. And then I know so many people that are just trying to get back home, like wanting to open their gifts, wanting to remember who they are. And there are these impediments to it because for so long we have been overlaid in aspects and expressions that we either that came from our lineage that we adopted as our own clothing, or the collective consciousness. We took in the mind programming and the ideas that we were meant to be a certain thing or be or show up a certain way. And then here we have this beautiful emanation of ourself, and we're like, wah, wah, I'm not going to talk to you because I want to do this thing over here, and not realizing that this is the thing. This essence is the grace, is the wisdom, is the power, is the key to unlocking everything from the true reservoir of the selfless, of the I am, of the higher consciousness. So spiritual pride for me, I'm going to show you how it might be applicable. One, just like an honoring of the self, like really. And I know there is no self, but I mean honoring of the self, of the generated energy and the presence that you are. Like, you know that we don't have the same fingerprint. You know that you're made specifically divine from a cut from the divine source. So therefore, they're learning and investigating and playing and being curious about who you are is really important. And if you're like me, somebody who was an adept on the spiritual path for eons, and then in this incarnation, we move through hills and mountains and all kinds of terrain. And so we forget, we remember again, new doorways open, things get constricted again. And so it's really learning how to navigate polarity and come back to this high divine union and really be able to stay, right? To realize the self. Um, yeah, to really realize the self. So that's when the shenanigans like starts to ease up, because you know the power that you yield, because you remember who you are, and you don't need a workshop for that, although it does help to, you know, to be walking with somebody who knows how to do it, has done it. Um, it's a good idea. But I just want, oh, I froze. I guess it's a really good idea. I'm just gonna look what I'm drinking. This like masterful, delicious concoction of mother's medicine. Okay, so back to spiritual pride. So in the world, we see all kinds of people that are here to be of service, right? We have all kinds of people, and all people are of service, right? Some people are doing it really well, some people not so well. Everybody's in process and progress, and so it's all good. It's important for you to, and for me, to acknowledge what is really, really true for us. And that will be what's in alignment with your values. So for me, spiritual pride is everything, because I know that I'm a spiritual being. So therefore, that is like priority for me. So I have never really taken heed. I've just never been somebody who really cared about like actresses and actors and social media icons. I think like maybe when I was 14, I was really excited about all the pop posters on my walls, and but I wasn't emanating them. I was just excited. Um, Honestly, I think I was just excited to have so much man energy all over my walls. But anyway, Justin Bateman, and like it's just so funny the things and the people that we're attracted to. Anyway, I digress. And we now look at the world, and it's like all these scientists and psychologists and um, practitioners and people who are meant to be gurus or masters in their field. And I use the word guru with respect, because I walk with gurus and I know what the true guru is. And it is not the pizza guru. um, Although that person might be wonderful and spectacular at making pizza, they do not dispel darkness from the pizza. So let's just get clear about that. And so I want to really I actually want to tune that um, in myself and in the world with greater respect and honor and understanding of what it can mean to walk with the power of the inner teacher, fully aligned, stacked, intact, and with other beings who are committed to releasing suffering on the planet and showing up to be great healers of our time. Um, so, whatever you do, Let's talk about spiritual pride. Like, I want you to understand that before anything came into form, it was just spirit. It was just vibration and energy. Our bodies are a dense version of vibration and energy. This is the truth. It was later that we created organizational structures and ideas and beliefs and gave word and name and meaning to specific things. But they existed in vibration and sacred geometry. That is the building blocks of our atoms, of our DNA, of everything, even our memory. So it's important to just understand that the basis of everything is spiritual in nature. So doctors, lawyers, teachers, psychologists, psychotherapists, somatic therapy, everybody, we're all using language that man created to point out to different energies and to, acknowledge form, the formless coming into form. So somebody had to channel that or create that. And so there was a lot of beauty that has been had for that so we can function in this reality. And all of us had a part of co creating that. And we can see that with language. We are co creating and engineering all the time and creating, one, purifying what words mean because they carry vibration and energy that have been projected. Like money would be an example of that, right? Trust me, I'm getting somewhere here with the spiritual pride. But I want you to just really understand, because for me, it's like a whoa. Like, how do we truly acknowledge that everything, if you want to acknowledge something from the source of it, create reality, change things in your life, um, heal, activate, be informed, everything comes directly from the spirit. And I know a lot of folks, obviously, most of the world has moved away from that understanding. But I want to like really plant that understanding with you here, because if you're working on like behavioral patterns and you're working from your brain and not your higher consciousness, if you're doing anything which is related to the reality that is post the original essence of spirit, then you're not going all the way to the root. And I just want to say that's okay if that's okay for you, but let's be clear that spiritual pride can be found in honoring the truth of who you are, the truth of what you inherently know. So, like your intuition, the consciousness and support, your connection to source is your prosperity. Really hear me here. Like we take it for granted, like the deep meditation, the being able to access information, knowledge, wisdom, because when we're separate from it, it is so painful and we behave in unimaginable ways. Look at the planet, y'all. Look at the planet. Look at warring. Look at this. It's because there has been a separation through the heartbreak or whatever. So spiritual pride is really, really choosing to connect so deeply to that which is unseen, to that which is always there, to that which is true, to that which is God. And I don't mean the religious guy in the clouds. I mean the God, the generator, operator, deliverer, or the generator, operator, and destroyer that lives inside of you and lives inside of me. So, not so long ago, I was in a training and I had this like remembering, like another a deep level of like, oh my God, I get it again. Like I had forgotten and I remembered. And it was understanding that there are those of us on this planet, and if this is you and you can hear me, hear me. I don't care who has credentials. I could give two federal fiddocks about the credentials of somebody that is not God. What I want is to be surrounded by those that are living in the self, in the high divine essence, and choosing to be selfless and choosing to walk in paths of power, mystery, connection to the divine, because those are people that are connected and can open spaces and hold places for people to move out of certain levels or spheres of of consciousness and move into broader spectrums of existence and inner knowing. And so what I came to realize is like here we were doing this training and all these things, I'm not going to say I knew everything, but the wisdom, I'm a carrier of that wisdom already. For many of us, if you were really called to do something, it's because you are reactivating something from another time and you're a carrier of it. So this is not to get cocky about it, but just to acknowledge like this is a calling for me because this lineage is calling me. And it doesn't mean I'm going to have to hang out with them always, but it means I'm awakening something within me to bring into this embodiment that I needed from before. And what came through so beautifully and this like rush of like, is I already like I walk with this. It lives within me. It breathes within me. And I knew this and my people knew this. We knew this before the words were created. Like we knew this before somebody called it a nervous system, before somebody called it, a gallbladder. There were things that we inherently knew as great healers of our planet, of these great of having connection to consciousness, to being aware of pulling whatever is needed at any given time for whatever our client needs, whatever is there. This is so profound. Whether you're clairaudient or clairsentient or clairvoyant or claircognizant, or I forgot what the name is when you have the gift of smell, no matter what it is, cultivate a love and an appreciation for the gifts that you walk with because this is your bankroll. And please know, I do not mean to sell yourself and prostitute yourself because you have these gifts. I mean, use them in service. Use them with love and respect and care. And for the ones that aren't working right, you just need to train or heal that they're out of balance or that you were never taught in this incarnation how to actually use them. Like for most of us, it's empathy. We were raised not in families that were like, hey, guess what, kids? This family line has these gifts, and you come with your own special gifts. And so I'm going to teach you how to use them. We didn't get that. Instead, we got thrown in classrooms and we got educated in ways that are exterior to our nature and they actually inferior to our nature. And so we weren't like raised listening to the profundity of our God essence. Like we weren't trained and attuned to really be like, oh, like you can get consent without language by listening and perceiving in the elemental environment, right? When you're out in nature, you know which tree wants to speak to you and which doesn't. And not everybody knows this, right? These are the things that I took for granted because most of us carry this, but we're so overlaid that we deny this and it's considered like woo woo in this world. Like, oh, there she's hugging the tree. And it's like, that's health. Like that's honest and it's health because we have an awareness that everything is alive and everything is connected and feeling the joy of connection and acknowledging that you don't have to talk to everything that's talking to you. Like all the lessons that weren't actually handed down, but some of us just know. Right. And then some of us have people that come in and help us, and we just point it out. I remember one of the most profound teachings came from a woman named Wendy, and we were in the south of France, and she was an elder to me, and we were on a pilgrimage, and we smelt the flower. And she told me always when I take in the essence of the flower to breathe life back into the flower. And for me, that was just such a loving and simple divine teaching that I can use and spread it out through all of me in my life. Like to always be in that giving and receiving or aim to be that. Like that's the perfect state of choosing that. And so spiritual pride is like knowing the things that you just know or walking with the things that you know are sacred and honoring them. So that day when I was in that Mayan training, I mean, the lineage that came through, the spirits that came through reminded me so clearly that everything that we have names for now originally, we just knew how to do them. We didn't need the explanation necessarily. We just knew, do this thing, it works. Like, here, take these herbs, this works. Move your stomach in this way. Look, there's a knot here. I'm going to move my hand this way. Boom. It's going to open up and you're going to have more energy come through your body. Like, we actually knew how to work somatically. Now we call it somatics, right? Now it's like an industry. Um, and that's okay. We're living in the modern world and we need to create ways for people to relate. But I want to take us to the center point of all things, which is always, always spiritual energy. It is always consciousness. And the more consciousness you garner, the more awareness you have. That again, it's the bankroll. It is what is so valuable because it will be able to guide you all the ways and days of your life and say yes to this, no to this. And when we tune in and we choose to prefer who we are instead of who we think we should be, right? When the voices are able to like still, and we truly come home and choose us instead of the external landscape, and then we accept responsibility for the gifts that we walk with. We accept responsibility for the beauty and the joy of presenting and showing up with those gifts. I mean, each one of us were given something unique. So it's directly relational to what it is we've come to offer in the world. And that doesn't necessarily mean that, like, because you have a spiritual gift, that you're going to be a healing practitioner, right? But it does mean that you'll be an instrument of healing no matter what it is that you choose to do, whether you're working at the bank, at the zoo, or wherever it is that you are. So having spiritual pride is really reconnecting to the the source and saying, okay, like this is me, this is truly me. So, for those who are still outwardly seeking validation, when we are out, and I know this because I've done this, right? Everything I share with you will be because I've experienced it personally, where I have outsourced, where I forgot who I was, right? And I was like, oh, let me take this training, let me take this, let me take this. But at the core, there are things that I just came with. There are things that you just came with that if you connect to those things and ride them like the dragon, you will feel so fulfilled and you will feel so aligned. It's not always easy. Alignment doesn't mean easy. Alignment means like full heart and acceptance of who I am and what I've come to offer. And knowing that these gifts are in service to humanity, right? When you're able to help your friend and just pull just the right words, or like whatever it is, or you're able to bring miracle healing through and heal somebody's, help somebody to heal themselves because the consciousness of miracles that you're carrying connects with the consciousness of the person that needs to be healed. And then they're able to heal themselves because they come back into the connection with source, and then everybody's empowered, right? When I call and ask the divine for support, they're in service. And so they're so happy to help me. And then I say, "Yay, great. I'm helping them fulfill their dharma." And then when I help others, it's the same thing. So there is a sense of joy and spiritual pride in just being who we are and sharing that openly. And we're not living in a world that necessarily celebrates that. It wants to monetize it, which monetizing it isn't a bad thing as long as you are operating from the heart and it's truly from a place of I want to give versus I want to take. And this is really, really important because you can open to receive, but like when you're taking or you want to like there's a different level of, and you can be successful in either, but again, you have to know who you are. You have to really, really know who you are. And it's a journey. It's a journey because again, we're words, right? Yeah, are we really words? No, but I'm using my language. I'm using the expression of source to share this message with you. So really lean into, wow, what do I already know? How do I know this? Like, how do I know this already? Um, and just honor who you are. And if it's kindness that you bear and that's part of your gift set, really honor it. like how you relate to people, how compassionate you are. Are you somebody that people go to? Like, what is the gift that you bring? Are you like a super powerful mastermind? Are you able to engineer things? Do you use your hands? Are you like, whatever it is? Some people might be really good at making love. Like, whatever your gift is, as long as you don't exploit it and you honor it, then it will be a treasure and you will treasure yourself. And so, what I really want to share with humanity is we are spiritual beings. And no matter what it looks like in the outside world, if you can honor that you are a being that is divine and you can choose, I mean, literally put it in your navigation system every day that this is what I want to experience today. I want to experience the true me every day. I want to see my gifts. I want to embrace myself. I want to feel buoyant and fulfilled with spiritual pride. Move everything out of the way, Creator, that is keeping me from seeing and experiencing the breadth, the depth, the joy, the wisdom of who I am. I'm ready to see her. I'm ready to see him. Reveal this to me. And if you plug this in every day, you will begin to see all the things that were in the way, right? So you'll have to find ways of clearing and releasing, and that will be another video. But making a conscious choice that, wow, all of this that's coming up because I've asked for this is showing me this was what was in the way of me experiencing myself. This was what was in the way. But if you don't choose it, if you don't decide and say, like, this is what I want, and like, stop the digging for a minute and the classes and the meditations, and just first and foremost, make your decision to give mercy to yourself and just release everything that no longer serves you, and then make a choice. Put your destination, use your will and power to decide what it is that you want. And if it's to be completely connected to your source, if it's to really truly know who you are, if it's to live in the superpower that you are, whatever it is for you. My list is pretty long every day. Um, but I continue to refine and get clear. And then when I master something, it can leave my list because then I've embodied it. But you have to make a choice because clearly the world is walking around like a Muppet show. And we are too half the time. Like, what part of you is speaking in what groups? What part of you is coming through when you feel uncomfortable or nervous, and all of a sudden you shift and your personality takes over versus the essence that is truly you and your nature. So there's a lot of learning and unlearning going on. But if you choose and be like, I want to experience what Jackie's talking about, I want to experience spiritual pride in my gifts, in who I am, just being me. I'm like ready to put down everything else and be me and experience the joy of being the emanation of the God that I am. This is a really powerful incantation. This is really choosing. So there were times when I was not walking with spiritual pride and it was heartbreaking for me. And there were times when I have felt so like reawakened in the brilliance of who I am, when we stop looking at the outside world and saying, she has all these gifts and I don't, and this person has the life I want and I don't. And like when we can cut that toxicity and that contamination off at the root, those are structures that were created out of lack or out of misunderstanding in our journey. And when I say cut off, I don't mean to be cruel, although it's already cruel that the script is running in this way, right? Like, because it's like totally keeping us from experiencing who we truly are. So, okay, whoa, whether it's like I see this child self, I see this adult self, I see that something other than the true me is operating right now. Okay, stop. No, like make the decision. I do not consent. And then sometimes there is a little bit of a psychological connection of like, okay, I know that you're afraid. I know that you need help. I got you. I'm going to take care of you. And then you can transmute and ascend these aspects of you so that they can experience freedom from what they were trapped in. And that's what we want to do. We want to help ourselves. We want to help the parts of us evolve, evolve, evolve. And so oftentimes we can do this much faster than the world believes that we can. So hear me again. I didn't know I was going here, but we are. You know, therapy, you can be in therapy for 10 years and you can go to a shaman and have like, boop, like an instant result for the thing that you've been working on healing with your parents. And I'm not saying don't go to your therapist. I'm going to say hold it lightly and be wise in who you choose and use your discernment. And if you know this, you can use it as a tool. But there are people who talk about it and there's people who know how to do it. And so I offer you the memory that you are a being who is multidimensional, who came prepared in your body to accelerate, activate, change, grow. You're a creator in your own right. If you remembered that power, you would extremely come into high quality of clarity. It doesn't always last because of the programming, but if you just plug this in, you would then understand that you don't need to project like there's anything else that's operating outside. We were groomed to believe that everything's happening outside of us instead of understanding that the reason that you are looking at that woman or that man and the gifts that they have is because there's something very specific that is similar to what they're carrying that you already carry, but you don't acknowledge that you carry it or you're denying you're carrying it. And so when you see that you're jealous of something specific or that something externally is rousing you, understand that there is a reason for that. And instead of, I understand it can be very like, it creates a lot of issues internally. It can really arise a lot of emotion. But if you start to turn it towards, if you just start to turn this whole thing inside out, you will see that it's a delusion. Everything around you, even what you're seeing, is because it's part of the nature of who you are. It's mirroring something for you about who you are. So I want you to have access to full spiritual integrity and spiritual pride. So it means us stepping out from external ideas and ways of doing things. If you are an inner alchemist, an inner artist, which you are because you were born of energy, you were born of power and will, and you were born of God, you are divine, then instead of sitting and trying to figure it out and sort it out and looping over and over again in psychotherapy and like there's a time and a place, but understand when you're using something that is not as effective as what you already have inside of you. Just breathe into that. If you already have the power and you just know that you're a God being and in connection with source, you can transform, destroy, create, whatever it is without going for, 4 years of sitting around and talking about it, not using your mind. We want to move away from the mind and use the divine mind, like the high conscious mind. And for most of the population, our physical mind has not been calibrated to discern, to use right judgment. It is working through trauma response and triggers. It's not operating from the higher inner authority. So let's put that in our navigation too. Like, what do you want? Do you want to have a Buddha mind? Do you want to be clear, conscious, focused? Do you want to live life from the inside out and engage with the world in a way that is honoring of you? Or you want to like kind of clear up some of this karma and come into a place of like, oh, this is me. This is the real me. I love the real me, who is nothing but energy. But there is a fragrance to the energy. What's the truth? Like when you move away from who you think you should, I'm just doing a time check, when you move away from what you've been conditioned, even in our spiritual world, like, oh, I'm this, I'm that. You are the light emanating a form. Get to know that light. Make a conscious choice. Make that the priority relationship. Make that your choice. I want to know my light. We've spent a lot of time burrowing in the shadows. And this was important for our evolution, like to become aware of the shadow. But we need to consistently become vibrantly conscious and choosing to become one with our light so that we can see the darkness. If we're just muddling around in the darkness all the time looking for our shadows, we consistently stay in the shadowland. I know. I have been a Scorpio digger, but the light, the power of the light reminds me of I just found my old backup, and I'm like in love with MC Light. At least I was when I was a kid. And yeah, so anyway, I can hear her lyrics coming on. um, Cause I'll blind you with the light. I'll sing a song for you another time. But the bottom line is, if you cultivate a relationship with your light and become friends with that, we always talk about befriending the shadow. Why don't you try befriending the light now? Like, let's switch it up, because if you already have so many gifts in the light that can help you go into the shadowland with the brighter light and be like, psh, I'm taking you, I'm taking you. Oh, I'm transmuting you. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. But focusing on cultivating a life, living in the light, celebrating in the light, dancing, living in freedom in the light. This is a way to cultivate spiritual pride, because then you're able to see who you are and what you walk with. Even your lineages, like the people that show up for you, you can have spiritual pride in that. Why do you think, like, if you're hanging out with Jesus all the time, right? Why do you think that is? Maybe you're a Christed being. If you're hanging out with, different ascended masters, what does it say about the nature of who you are and your walk in this life, right? It's true. If you're walking around with high divine mystics, what does it say about who you are? You know, um, and the same for, artists. Like, some people are walking around with, like, Van Gogh, like other with artists, and they're that is being cultivated through them, and they're part of a lineage of divine artists. Like, just really celebrate who you are, not by the outside world, but like just use everything around you to show you who you are inside and who you're not. So I'm going to just circle this back now because I kind of went all over. Um, Spiritual pride is honoring the genuine nature of who we are and having respect for it and celebrating it. Like, no matter what you're doing, it's about who you're being. Who you are being. That is what we want, the emanation. And remember, this, if you're watching this video, this is not your first go around on this earth. This is not. So you have cultivated many, many lifetimes. You are a divine being. Just really, really choosing to trust in the divine essence. Don't get caught up in the movie out here. It is literally a distraction. Or you can use it when you have enough higher inner authority in place to help you to navigate your inner reality and to pull things, right? But generally, we want to turn the way in which we've been learning from the inside out. What does this say about me? What are these feelings saying about me? This is happening with my friend. I'm really upset. What is this saying? What's happening in me? Me. And also, not to become um, egocentric with the me, but just using it as a tool for self-reflection and for identifying and honoring and claiming that which you are, because there is a fragrance to you that has been traveling with you your entire life. And if you choose to see her or him, it will start to pronounce itself and start to reveal. And sure, there might be even bigger shadows that pop up. And with support, you can move those shadows away and continue to move towards your destiny, which is being the biggest emanation of the truth and the light of who you are. And that's true pride, spiritual pride, right? Like, when I can speak the truth and when I can stand in something super uncomfortable, but I know it is divine and I know it's mine. or when the whole world has told me or my family has told me like who I am or who I think I am, and this whole other world lives inside of me, and I get to claim it as the truth in the moment of like, wow, I'm pure consciousness. So honor your awareness, honor your intuition, honor your gifts. Be really clear. If you're looking out at people and you're like, they have all this and I don't, you have it too. You have something different. Go on the journey inside, sit with yourself and call forth, put it in your navigation what you want to dial up your gifts. You don't want her gifts. You or his gifts. You don't want any of that. You want yours because you have a divine reason for being here, and you just are not yet seeing the beauty. So you got to clear out those personalities and those parts of yourself that have, for whatever reason. You don't have to get into all the stories. Who was neglected? Who wasn't this? Like, you don't really have to go into the entire psychoanalyzation of your life all the time. Like, just go right to the source. And I will do a whole video very soon on psychotherapy and counseling and what I feel about the industry and how I can see that it can be really helpful for some people and also can be a massive impediment to spiritual people and the progress, because we spend way too much time pretending that we can like play with our minds and get into the depth of like the freaking energy. Like, drawing on source, not talking about it, whirling it about it in our head, actually doing it, choosing it, making the decision, and getting it done. We have so much power. And when you start to use it and play with it, that's when you start to generate even more spiritual pride, right? It's like a kid who is growing up. We have to go through trials and tribulations, and we build muscles, right? We build strength. And we're like, oh, I feel more confident. Now I can do this. When we start driving, we're like, oh, first it's exciting and fun and scary. And then all of a sudden it's like no big deal. But then if we go back to it, it's a really big deal. It's like driving for me. So I'm going to reclaim that as a spiritual gift too. It's a way that my consciousness is navigating multiple realities at the same time, right? I have to be aware of my perception. I have to be conscious of my view, who's behind me, who's around me, and I still have to hold the line and stay in my lane and be able to navigate the direction, what's in my navigation system, where I'm going. So these are things we just take a lot for granted. And so this message is, have spiritual pride. And spiritual pride doesn't necessarily mean like my psychic gifts, although it includes them. It is the pride of the energy that you carry. It's the pride of the joy that you are, that the full expression that you can emanate. It is the joy of the consciousness and the awareness that you carry. It is the ability to have a tender heart and be there for the people that you love. Like, these are spiritual gifts that not everybody is walking with, or they're covered. So just keep on choosing to reveal yours and honor and love them, and I will meet you there, because every day I am making this, like, I'm really deepening my own will with this, because we take so much for granted. It comes so easy to us now. Like, things that, like, being able to do healings, like, as though it's no big deal. And it's no big deal in that it's our natural state, actually. Um, but we're still a big deal. Like, being able to have this experience and share it together is really beautiful. And I love you, and I want to see you feel good about yourself by being the truth of who you are, not by like identifying with things and creating like these stories and identities of who you are. Be who the fuck you are, and I will meet you there, and you will be loved by from within, and you will create a life from within that is so honoring of you. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it will be yours to walk. And if you're lucky enough for you and me to even be having these conversations, you're already in a place of great love and success, because there will be so many souls that will never have access to videos like this, that will never be talking about consciousness, because it's just not, there's so much karma that they're not even there to experience it yet. And we've been there too. So just a lot of compassion and understanding that even talking about the nature of spirit is a divine gift and a blessing in this life, because we could be completely freaking covered. Cancel, delete, because we're not. So Take everything with love and with grace as an opportunity for you. Stop fucking mulling around in the negative. I know it feels really, really hard when there's constructs inside of us that keep like willing us there, but the truth is, at some level, we are consciously participating in that. And you have to choose to opt out. Like, really become so sick of yourself that you are like, this is what I want in the navigation system. I'm ready to do whatever it takes for me to be me and do this. So please, creator, let's get on with this. Send me the teachers, send me the guides, send me whatever I need, but I'm willing to relinquish that which I am not and sacrifice him on the cross to be the truth of me. So, spiritual pride all the way. Big, big hugs to you. And any questions, if you need any help with this, write to me. I'm here for it. And if you're serious and you're, well, serious, playful, serious, whatever, I'm here. I'm here. Let's do the thing. Let's actualize you in form. That is the real work. Creating a business, creating a partnership, all those things are secondary to feeling home, present, loved, safe, and in connection with the divine. Then everything, so that's foundation, and then everything moves from there. Then you can be of service, like from a real beautiful place. Ciao.